So Australia lead by 82 runs. The scores in the match so far, Australia 180, to which West Indies replied with 190. And batting the second time, the Australians have gone to a 92 for four. So a lead of some 82 runs with 6 wickets standing. And were it not for the fact that Australia have started to bat the second time, anyone hearing those scores would think we are talking about T20 cricket. Uh, Hi again to you, Andy Payne. I know that when you represented the Maple side, you played as a keeper batsman, if I remember correctly. And, I've always heard that wicketkeeper is doing a good job when you really don't have a whole lot to say about him. Remarkably enough, that has often been said about umpires. And there's a guy called, what, Adrian Holstock, something of that nature. And he has probably been more of a talking point than some of the cricketers who have been playing in this contest. And some controversy, unfortunately, coming into play at Kensington with a number of what strange decisions being made by the third umpire. Now, Andy, we've all played cricket, and to this day, I know you play Masters as well. You will always find umpires who make decisions with which you disagree. But that is usually umpires who are on the field and have a split second to make a decision, and sometimes they get it wrong. We know this. You should not be getting it wrong when you're seeing it on the screen and watching it over and over and over again. Tell us about this nonsense going on at Kensington.
Thanks, Philip, again for being here. And like how you call it, nonsense. The
I
umpiring
was
and
trying to be kind.
yes, I know you were the kind man you are. But Adrian Holstock, the TV umpire for this game, like you said, he's brought a lot of controversy to it. And Philip, as we are on that, I can tell you the West Indies head coach, Darren Sammy, for a press conference this evening after the close of play. That should tell you that the West Indies camp, they're not very happy with a lot of things that would have gone on in that umpiring fraternity. And you were there at that press conference and you heard Coach Sammy speaking about how they felt in the dressing room about Adrian Holstock and some of these decisions. He said there's a situation where this has been going on from in England, and this particular umpire coming into question in their forte. But yes, you mentioned we all play cricket and we would have been at the center of some decisions and controversial decisions before. And here is a man having all that technology, cameras. He's got plenty of times that he can look at it and re-look at it, and still to be getting these decisions wrong. A lot needs to be asked. Well, we're seeing it wrong. I don't know if he's seeing it wrong. And you also heard Coach Sammy say that obviously he will have an award with the match referee. As
Andy, you're talking about Coach Sammy, you're talking about myself, you're talking about you, and we're all maybe concerned about the accuracy of these decisions. But you were also there when Mitchell Stark had his say, and maybe he's going to go into politics at some point in time, because he was really very what should I say, diplomatic in what he was saying. But unless you were totally deaf, you would have recognized that he also felt, and I guess he was speaking maybe on behalf of his teammates as well, that some of the decisions were strange.
they're
And he
very
actually did make the point which our viewers will hear for themselves, after this when I play parts of those interviews. That he did accept that most of the strange decisions worked against the West
against.
Indies. So this is not a question where, as I heard some person lamely suggest that Sammy is making excuses because it may lose the test match. People have got to learn to look at situations and break things down and isolate things. You may think that Darren Sammy should not be West Indies coach. That's okay. It's okay to think that. Okay? It's okay to think that he selected a team that he should not have selected. It is okay to believe that Brandon King should not be playing. It's okay to believe that Imlak should be keeping wicket. All those things are okay. It's cricket. There will always be discussion. But none of that has anything to do with the fiasco that we saw on screen over the past 2 days.
Agreed. And with all that we might not be in agreement agree with. What I can tell you is that one thing for sure in my mind was I was happy to see the head coach. He stepped up to the press conference. He didn't ask any of his players to come out there to deal with it. He being the man in charge, he decided that he wanted to be there to represent what he thought was unfair decisions against his team. So, like you said, a lot of things we might not would agree with, but if there's one thing we have to say was that Sammy stood up for his men in this instance. But yeah, a lot needs to be asked of Adrian Holstar, how he is seeing these things. And like you said, there was a lot of similar decisions, and the decisions seem to all have gone against the West Indies for them.
Well, yeah, and I don't know what will come of it. I think that sometimes we are forced to accept certain things because we don't speak out. And when I say we, are not only talking about the management of the West Indies team now, I'm talking about we, the public, because we if we accept these things, someone was saying today there were some people today who were trying to accept the decisions, I guess because they felt, well, let's accept the decisions. But if you accept nonsense, what you
Nonsense.
will get, you get more nonsense. So I think it is something that needs to be addressed. You can't have, well, I mean, I think it's ridiculous that we're discussing umpiring decisions that have been on a screen for everybody to see.
Yeah,
As I
yeah.
said, it's nothing new about umpires getting things wrong or being controversial or there being uncertainty and doubt and disagreement with umpire when decisions are made. What as an umpire, there's an appeal for catch or whatever. You've got maybe what after 6 or 7 seconds and you haven't made the decision, it begins to look as though you're taking too long. So you've got a short window, and even when you meet to decide if a catch is clean or not, as two umpires on a field, you still have to you only can rely on what you saw in a split second.
Yeah.
I can accept that type of situation, but what we saw over the last 2 days, that needs to be addressed at the highest level. And if it means that Adrian Holsap finds another way of making money, that may not be a bad thing.
Yes, so I agree. So enough on that, Philip. But yeah, here's a team in transition who I thought over 2 days of play, they've really put themselves in a good position uh, in this test match. The contest being pretty balanced all along. Australia being the number one team in the world, but to be challenged by this West Indies team, especially the bowling. I mean, all we can say is that these guys, they've really done a fantastic job up to this point.
One of the positive things, and there are many regarding the bowling, has been the performance of I would say Azar Joseph in the second innings. In the first innings, he virtually bowled as though he didn't belong, which we've seen a lot of that in over the past year or two, much to the showing much concern. That has concerned many people. But in the second innings, I think he did as much as one would have wanted. And in fact, I think the bowlers have done an excellent job. If there's a disappointment in the field, it's the catching. I believe Joseph alone, that's Shamar Joseph, some 5 catches or so going down off him in the match so far. That certainly must be disheartening to a young man who is really bowling well. I saw a former Australian cricketer making, I would call it insulting remarks about him in relation to, I
Yeah,
think Joseph felt that he had got the number of the Australian opener, and maybe former Australian cricketer should have left that between the two players
yeah,
because
yeah.
he dismissed
Um,
him in both innings. He said to him he's not Curtly Ambrose. Well, what I
yeah,
would say is that that may very well be true because maybe had Curtly Ambrose been playing this game, it would have already ended in favor of the West Indies.
yeah, but Shamar Joseph, he came back in that second innings and he's created chances from his first over, having some constant drop in the slip and gully area.
In
But
fact, two
he
catches went down in one over, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
that's correct. That's correct. In his first over, he created two chances and they both went a begging. But this young man, I mean, we heard those comments from that former Australia player, but I don't think they deterred him in any way. He just continues to running, and he looks threatening every spell that he bowls. He looked like he would pick up a wicket in every spell that he bowls.
Well, I don't know when they're going to leave these fast bowlers alone. Wasn't it Curtly Ambrose who someone complained about something he was wearing on his wrist, and
Yes.
well, in a jiffy, it was all over. Um, you know, and who knows? Maybe those comments from the cricketer, the former cricketer, may very well have spurred on to Shamar Joseph, and he's been brilliant so far. If only he'd had more support in the slips, maybe just maybe the game may have been a bit more advanced. But I think the at the same time, the West Indies have been a bit fortunate in that the catches that were dropped, the outcome could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't prove to be too costly. I mean, only the exception of probably Kawaja in the first
Yes, in
innings.
the first innings, that's correct.
Yeah, he went on to score 40 odd. But yeah, you mentioned Alzari Joseph a bit earlier as well. Who I thought today he looked a lot better than what we saw yesterday. You remember speaking to you yesterday, I would have told you his performance looked a bit lackluster yesterday. I'm sure that the coaching staff would have definitely have a word with him and say, hey, look, these two junior bowlers to you, they're really putting it all in, and you need to come to the party. You need to support. So yeah, that's felt this afternoon. It was a lot more of energy in it from Zaid Joseph, and even coming on to the end of closer play, the 2 overs that he sent down prior to the end of the match, I thought he looked pretty good. I just thought that Roston Cheers probably gave Justin Graves 1 over too much with 20 minutes remaining. I thought he should have gotten Alzari in there a bit earlier.
Hmm. Well, I suppose first game at the helm is a learning exercise, I suppose. I think though that for the most part, Justin Graves did an excellent job, playing his particular role, and I think the bowling group, so to speak, has pretty much all the tools that are required. They haven't had to call on Jamal Workin at all as yet, and the Chase has done very little work, so they've still got some options there. But given the nature of the pitch, it's understandable that the faster bowlers have been the ones utilized for the most part.
And that's proven very well for the West Indies fast bowlers, like you said, not having to go to the spinner in Jamal Warren so far in this match. It just tells you that the bowling group, like you rightfully said, has done really well. Um, it's some 50, 53 overs or so. I thought Australia would have batted in the first innings, and he just had 4 overs of spin from Captain Chase himself, and then come back again this evening, another uh, close to 30 overs being bowled, and no need for the spinners. So thought that's a good job. You spoke about Justin Graves, who his discipline continues to be there. Some might say he's not extremely quick, but I thought he continued to bowl some lines, good length on this particular surface, and the ball was getting good carry to the keeper.
Yeah, but we wouldn't even get into who's quick and who's not because we've seen bowlers who are much less than Tierney be very, very effective. And I think those of us who have been watching cricket for anything more than 2 or 3 days should realize that it's not just pace that gets wickets. There are other factors that come into play
His
as well.
skills, his
Yeah,
skills, skills,
yeah.
skills. I think we might want to comment a bit on the batting.
Yeah, well, actually, the batting, yes, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that.
When we last spoke, we always said that the first session today would have been integral into the outcome of this innings and probably into the match. And coming in overnight with 4 wickets down, Captain Chase coming to the crease with Brandon King, the debutant. He was there. A partnership didn't prove too much, but I thought they batted quite enough balls that would have, encouraged the West Indies to think a partnership was in the making. Uh, Unfortunately, you saw King padding up there and giving his wicket up to Hazelwood 26 on debut to start. But then what most of the crowd came to see, sheer hope. And impressive he was, I must say. Some 5 4s in the knock of 48. A partnership between him and Chase over 60 odd runs. I thought they really batted well in that period.
Yes, it did, and in conditions that were not really too friendly. In fact, as you will hear from the Australian camp through the fast bowler, Mitchell Stark, a pitch where some balls were going through very low, and then maybe even the next ball would jump at you, and so on. So the conditions have not been perfect for batting. Neither side has complained that the pitch has been inadequate, and in fact, I think it was Sammy who made the point that it was actually a good test match pitch. But it has been a challenge. It's not the sort of pitch where you're going to be where Andy Payne is going to go to and knock the ball all over the place.
And this is test cricket. This is what it's
Yeah.
called a test. We're only in day 2. And I think as the test match go along, you expect the pitch to get a lot better. And if batters can bide their time and wait around and partnerships put together, you will see that they will get better. So all this period batting, quite some overs, 108 balls, 91 balls respectively. And as we got into the innings, it seems like it was getting a bit easier for them. Albeit both of them deemed themselves unfortunately with the dismissals that they received, both of them. So, with better decisions, probably they could have carried on and batted long enough and well enough instead of giving West Indies a better lead.
Tomorrow, what's on the cards?
Tomorrow, like I said, I think the pitch is getting a bit better as the days go by. First day, you lost some 14 wickets. Day two, you lost 10 wickets. What's good about it is that the West Indies is just some 82 runs behind. There's still 6 wickets to get before they can go for their run chase. Again, similarly, I think the first session, the play tomorrow, will be very important. If they can pick up early wickets, they don't want this period to create a big partnership. There's still the likes of Alex Carey to come, who can bat, and then the captain and Pat Cummins, who he goes after it a bit. But the first session, that first hour of play, that will be a very important session. And I just think Captain Chase, I don't want him to go too defensive too early. I think if we continue to attack the Australians, that we can really find ourselves in a very, very good position to not have to chase too much.
Okay, Andy. So unless you got further thoughts, going into the third day again, a day that many thought would be quite easily the final day of the game. It may very well still be, but at least the way things are going right now, it looks as though we're going to have maybe at least a 4 day game.
Yeah. So further thoughts, I just hope that Adrian Woolstott will come to the party in West Indies' favor. If
As some people would say, Andy, that's not even funny.
if need to. But yeah, all in all, I think other thoughts. I thought Pat Cummins again. He bowled very well. He continued to run in. Like I said, he will be my pick of the Australian bowlers for the series. Bo Webster, he came in there, and this is something that our batters need to be mindful of. He's just coming to bowl up and in. We can't afford to lose wickets to Webster. We saw him got that wicket of Justin Graves, who probably was a bit impatient and shy of an unfortunate dismissal. But we can't allow Bo Webster to be picking up wickets in this series. These part timers, they're just there to bowl a few deliveries and try to get a rest for the senior bowlers. So once all of those things that we can conform to and get on top of, I think we'll find ourselves in a better position going into the series. Nathan Lyon, again, I didn't expect too much from him and Kinder's an over pitch so far. But again, in the second innings, we just need to be mindful that he's Nathan Lyon and can't take what we saw in that first innings for granted. But all in all, I think Craig Brathwaite, John Campbell, and that lot, Casey Carey, the top six, they need to really, really think that they can win this match with West Indies. And I hope that we don't have to chase anything over 180.
Well, it is a bit of a concern, I suppose, that your number three batsman is averaging 17 in tests, and your backup opener is averaging 19. So don't even try to discuss with me changes for the second test.
Not at all. Not
Yes,
at all.
what that must be a concern. But I suppose from the West Indian perspective, here's hoping that Carty can find his footing in the red ball version, very similar to what he has been doing in the white ball version. But we've seen this movie before. I mean, Shea Hope had his struggles in the red ball, which was why he was dropped some time back. And all along, he was dominating the white ball. So, for whatever reason or reasons, there's not always that consistency across formats.
Yeah, well, but one thing is clear to me in that, we always talk about this brand of cricket you want to play, the culture and all that. But I think they're pretty clear as to what they're looking for. They're looking for some people who can move the score along. You heard in the press conference again. There's he's always go to the data, and he's
Mm.
proven that this is what we want to do. We want to be scoring at some 4 runs and over throughout, even if we're not batting X amount of overs. We would like to get our scoring rate in an area where we know that we can score runs and not go ultra defensive and be on the back foot a lot. So I think his template is pretty clear as to what he's looking for. And it's just for the players to, like I said, conform with it and play that brand of cricket.
Well, when you're talking about data, though, there was a guy called Ashoka De Silva. I wouldn't tell you his nickname, well, how his nickname was corrupted,
I
But
can tell you, a shocker.
a shock of the silver. Anyhow, at one point he was removed from the panel after a number of mistakes, if you want to call them that. He came back and we've had umpires removed. I think one of the West Indian umpires was removed not too long ago. And where I'm going with this is that you can't have the game brought into disrepute in the way in which we've seen over the last 2 days. And if this umpire does not get his act together, I think he needs to be removed.
He said
Um,
he needs a whole stop and see where he's going.
yeah. No, I mean, it's really disgraceful. You should not be debating television decisions. There should be no debate.
That's
You know,
all.
there should not be a debate. So let's hope that he gets better. It's tough enough for the players. The pitch is a pitch which is not easy to bat on. The bowlers have got to be bang on to get the maximum out of it. It's hard enough for the players. They don't need an umpire who is a loose cannon or who doesn't know what he's doing.
Not at all. Again, like I said, time that we saw the coach come into the press conference, like I said, we knew that there was some kind of unhappiness in the
Mm.
camp. Because generally, I don't think we really see that on a often in Test cricket, where the coach will be there at the press conference after a day's play, and it's not like,
But he made it clear that he didn't want his players to have to face
yeah,
that because it was obvious that the media would ask about it. I mean,
lots of questions would have come.
anyone who saw those television replays and who wasn't baffled and somewhat confused, maybe they know what they were looking at. But it was fairly obvious that the media would have had their questions. The Australian media, there too, you sense recognize that something was wrong. So this is not any sort of grapes. And those who would want to suggest that quote Sammy is setting up excuses in case the team loses, I think that's folly and a very lame suggestion. This is a serious problem with officiating that needs to be better, and it needs to be looked at in that light. If you want to criticize the coach or the players for how they perform, that's fine. That's they do that. That's part of the whole game. But let's not get things mixed up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you again soon.
Okay, thanks for having me, Philip.
Mitch, we've seen a string of DRS decisions in this game with sort of bat pad and hard to discern whether it's been bat first or pad first, probably gone each way. But do you feel there's a consistency in the way that they're generally adjudicated, and do players understand sort of what goes on behind the scenes in that respect?
There's been some interesting ones. Obviously, a couple more have gone against the West Indies than us. So one for us. Obviously, looked like there was a gap between the bat and the ball. Cost us 40 odd runs, but then a contentious one to then get the wicket. So as players, you can only ask the question. We don't use the technology to make that decision. We can ask a question. It sort of felt like or looked like that the snicko and the images were out of sync to some capacity. So you might have to ask the umpires about how that's all perceived from their end. But for us, you just ask a question.
And just on a related note, the Carey catch, that low catch that was given your way, I suppose a little bit similar to the one with you at Lords a couple of years ago. Do you sort of understand the consistency on that front, or did you think it was a catch, and do you think it differed to the one that you had a couple of years ago?
Yeah, mine I put the ball on the ground. Kez's, again, that's the umpire's discretion. He obviously took it above the ground, and then whether it was deemed to have been in the glove when the frames were there. I think the one against Trav in the first innings was, I thought we all thought that was out anyway, which obviously didn't go the way of the Windies. So yeah, that's again, it's a grey area, I guess. So it comes down to the perception of the officials.
Darren, thanks for joining us. You didn't look too happy with all start to his decision making. What happened? What's happening?
Well, you saw it, Spoons. He was watching the same game as me. But I just had a chat with the match referee, just trying to find some sort of understanding as to what the process is. I mean, we only hope for consistency. That's all we could ask for. Whether it's when there's doubt in something, just be consistent across the board. I've noticed, especially with this particular umpire, it's been something that's, for me, it started in England, but yeah, it's frustrating, and God is so good. He gives you 2 opportunities to do 2 decisions, 2 caught behinds, 2 LBWs, and it seems like we come up on the sharp end of the stick all the time. So I just ask for consistency in the decision making.
So your opinion, Shear was not out and Head was up yesterday?
No, I'm just saying, judge what you see. If you see the same thing and one is not out, and there's even more doubt on the other one, then you give it out. So again, I don't know what he's seen, but from the images that we've seen, it's the decisions are not fair enough for both teams.
And is there a formal protest in the making, or you're not going to go?
You'll have to wait and see for that, I suppose. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for gentlemen, as we said, but in all seriousness, some of us have great difficulty understanding the decisions, especially the one with the others were quite clear to some of us, or there may be a clear opinion as to if Hope was or was not up. But some of us don't have any understanding as to what happened regarding Chase. Could you explain?
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm trying to understand the decision made. If, in our opinion, we saw the ball deviated onto the pad, and unless there's a, I don't know what's inside the third umpire, unless there's a super zoomer that gets it closer that we don't see on the replay. And that's what I'm trying to find out. And I've asked the match referee for a sit down. It's, we all humans. Mistakes will be made. I just want fairness. And in 2025, I watched, Sir Viv run out 2 guys in the 1975 World Cup. They had no DRS, nothing. We're in 2025, and you're supposed to have more correct decisions. That seems fair across the board, and that's all we ask for.
So just for clarity, you got the impression that the ball struck Chase's back first?
Yeah, that's what, when I spoke to Roston, he felt there was a nick, but there was no, because it had to be bat first from the replay, but just watching, and I'm trying to understand, maybe because the umpire put it out and there was not enough doubt to overturn it. So I'm like you, I'm just trying to understand the decision and the process in getting to the decision. So yeah, I'll probably definitely have a chat with everyone involved after this game.
Jack, then Andrew,
Coach, I don't know if you heard Mitch just then, but he said that they felt like there was, timing was out on the Snicko. Is that something that you could say?
Well, you see the spike, you wonder if it's ball hitting pad first or pad hitting bat, So again, there's so much to question. So yeah, when I went to school, I never did technology, so I don't have the real answer for you. But to me, and I'm pretty sure to most of you guys, it seemed like there was not enough fairness in the decision making, and that's why I don't want any player here to come and we know the rules, we know fines going all across the board, so I don't want them to focus on that. And what I've said to them, in spite of all the things that have gone against us, we're still in a position to win a test match. That's what we should focus on.